we're real fortunate to have with us Harold Taylor, who is on the Parish Council of St. Landry Parish, was very involved in Hurricane Barry and turned the pumps off. So anyway, thank you for doing that. You probably saved 3,000 or 4,000 homes from flooding.
Well, thank you.
So
So,
anyway, just share with us how that happened.
well, I had not met Mr. Scheffler until this particular phone call. I get a phone call from him, and he says, "Look," he says, "we got some serious problems. We got Barry heading our way, and we've spoken to the folks that's supposed to handle the pumps, and they said that they couldn't do it on his authority. They would have to have someone higher up." So he calls me and he says, "Can you get the parish president to call and have the pump shut off?" And I says, "I think I can handle that." And I did, and he agreed to do it. And I don't know the details of the conversation, but maybe you do.
Well, Bill, that was Bill Fontenot, you know, and I'd worked with him on the highway department here,
Yes.
and so somebody I knew real well. So anyway, he called Don Segura and told him, if you don't turn the pumps off, the sheriff will be there to cut your wires. So anyway, that drained, you had a big north wind blowing, so that drained, I think the prediction was 34 feet at Washington and 17 feet at Lafayette. And the computer models showed that, you know, because you had a storm surge, you had a big rain event, and you had a high river.
That's right.
All those things were not present during the August 16 event, you know. That was just a big rain event. But had we, you know, so anyway, we drained it, I think, down to 14, and the design height is 18. So you literally drain the Buff Cocodra swamp, which is a WMA, the Thistleway swamps, the Darbon swamps, and, you know, so, and Cypress Island. Cypress Island, Lake Charlotte went dry for the first time in 38 years. So the storm surge came, and the storm surge doesn't last very long, you know. It came on the morning of whatever, and it was receding. Of course, it all went into Cypress Island Lake and the whole Cypress Island area, and then it receded, and then the rains came, but the computer models showed 17 feet and 34 feet at Washington, and the computer models were 12. They were showing 17 feet. At Lafayette, it got to 12.1, and at Washington, it barely made flood stage at 20. I think flood stage there 27. It went to 29. So the whole model was 5 feet off, and so
It saved the day.
it saved the day. Yeah, and the hurricane. I mean, the hurricane. The weather guys was saying if you flooded in 016, you had a 99% chance of flooding again.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And subsequent to turning the pumps off at that particular, with Barry, we organized and put a volunteer group together to work with those entities that had control over the watershed.
Yeah.
And it was all volunteer, and was able to communicate 3 days before the event to come up with a plan to lower the Catawba,
Yeah.
you know, from, what is it, 17.3 to 15.3. And that worked well for up until just recently, and then we had a little problem with that. You want to explain that?
Well, I think the Colonel Jones, you know, he was a guy that followed the book, and the book tells him what to do, and he didn't want to stray from that. I think Colonel Otan, who is the replacement for Jones, I think he understands how the whole system works, and hopefully we'll get a very favorable, operation. The question is, the Corps controls the gates into Henderson, and we've made improvements in that Henderson
Swamp, yeah.
swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we think, when August 16 came, Henderson was at 8 feet. It went to 24 feet in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it couldn't, of course, it only filled a small area because you can't get the water through. And then the gates were not open, and so the whole Henderson swamp should have been able to, at 8 feet, should have been able to drain, and but you had very little. You have a pipeline. You have a big.
Burn.
You have a high line crossing, and that's a major dam.
Yeah.
So, tell us about your history.
My history. Well, what particular part of my history do you want to know about?
Well, you were 13 and you organized.
Yes, I guess I've been in public service as a volunteer and elected service for a long, long time. I was shared with Harold just recently. He was asking me about my background. I said, well, my first endeavor into community service was I volunteered to co-found a volunteer fire department in a little community I grew up in, of Palmetto. And we organized and chartered, and of course my assignment was at 13 was to get with the assessor's office and get a map, because we were gonna draw up the boundaries of this particular fire department and try to form a fire district. And I worked on it for 6 months. Got the information together, and basically what we needed to know what the assessment was in that particular area. And lo and behold, another fire department heard what we were doing, and they immediately annexed the part that had the oil wells and kind of killed that project. But the fire department kept going, and it's still in operation today and doing a good job. At the age of 22, after I finished college, I moved back home and
Where'd you go to school?
Nichols was my alma mater. I graduated in ag business and had a minor in horticulture. And after 50 years in the workforce, I retired and I went to work for my wife as her gardener. So I'm doing what I planned to do at 22. But I got elected to the city council of Palmetto for 10 years. Was in charge of the utility departments, the gas and water department. 10 years there, then I was elected mayor for 20 years, and we did some amazing things. In fact, Harold, I didn't share this with you. We built the first municipally owned cable television system in Louisiana. Wow. In I don't remember the year,
'Cause Cox wouldn't come.
89 or whatever.
Yeah.
No, we had invited several companies to come in and take a look, and they all said the same thing. Look, you're sparsely populated. We could, put our money elsewhere and do better. Why don't the town do it? Well, all I knew about cable was that there's a hole in the wall and it screws in the back of a TV.
Yeah.
So I started doing some research, and as it turned out, we built it and ran it until the little satellites became available everywhere. And but anyway, back to the mayorship. It was quite an experience.
Didn't you put in a water system?
We had a small water system, and I expanded it 3 times since as I was there.
So you got fire hydrants way out in the country.
We do. And I think we spread out for about a 20-mile radius of Palmetto. Yeah. But anyway, it was exciting. Some of the things we got to do and all. But one of the efforts that we organized was our fire department. We had no ambulance service, and that's another story. And I don't want to be taking a lot of your time to get into this stuff. But
yeah, share that.
I was doing some work in town, and on Thursday afternoons, for whatever reason, all the businesses shut down. And I see this little bubble light coming on a gold-looking vehicle, and it saw me and it stopped. And it says, "Man, can you come with me? We had a wreck up the road, and I need someone to help me load the patient in the hearse."
Yeah.
It was a hearse. I said, "Okay." So we did, and I came back. I says, "Wow, a hearse?"
Yeah.
I said, we need a rescue unit. So
Right.
we organized, the fire department bought a rescue unit, and had 5 volunteers in the community, mostly housewives and nurses and teachers, became EMTs and ran it, and we ran it until one of the ambulance services that served our parish decided to open a station up there, and we kind of bowed out of it. But just things like that we emphasized.
You know, but it's amazing that you as a politician were doing all this stuff, because that leadership probably helped you with forming LHC.
Well, that was
Then that's about right in Palmetto.
that's another story.
Yeah.
My dear friends, Keitha Ginger Myers. Ginger is a nurse, and she was one of the volunteers that worked with the ambulance service, and she'd come home in afternoons and see patients that needed, they'd call us and says, "Can you come see my mother? She's not doing well." And she was pretty busy doing that after hours. Well, and anyway, she wanted to open up a home health agency, and at the time there were 790 agencies across the state, and she couldn't get a license. Well, as it turned out, we were able to get a license, and we opened.
Didn't it take $60,000?
The money we had to put up a bond of $50,000, and that was difficult because my partner and I.
Y'all didn't have $50,000.
We didn't have it, but we had some friends that signed it that could do it, and we started with 2 employees in 1994, September of '94, and 4 patients, and we sold the company in, I think, 22.
Yeah.
I think we had 32,000 employees. We was operating in 35 states, and
Wow.
it was quite a successful story.
All started in Palmetto,
In
Louisiana.
Palmetto, yeah, you're right.
So tell us about St. Landry Parish, where y'all.
I enjoy serving on the council. I really, really do. We, like many parishes, we have some financial problems today that we're trying to work through.
You're spending more than you get.
Well, that's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. But all in all, I'm confident. I'm confident enough to know that we're going to be able to work this out, and we're just going to have to make some changes in the way we do business. But that's my story,
And you're sticking to it.
and I'm sticking with it. You're right. You're right.
So tell us about your relationship with RAB and all the going on with the RAB levy board. That covers from Alexandria to St. Landry.
Yeah, well, of course, RAB served, I live in the west of Chafalai floodway, of course, so naturally I'm interested in
Yeah.
what's done, and RAB is in charge of the levee system
Yeah.
and so forth in that particular district. RAB is one of the groups that we have to deal with because they have water that they put into the Tesh Vermilion watershed from the Red River.
Yeah.
And they're, when we huddled together to say, look, let's turn the pumps off, open the gates, shut the gates if the river was putting water in, and they were very appreciative to do that. So they do a good job.
They rebuilding the gates in the Henderson,
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I did not know that, Harold.
Yeah,
The gate we had to open with a wrecker?
that's right.
You could tell that story.
Yeah. It took, the gates at Henderson were put in when they were building I-10, and it was supposed to be temporary gates, and they put in by Louisiana Department of Highways, and in what, 66 or 67, and tell you a funny story. But we had one of our mechanics working for us, and he couldn't read and write, but he made a bet when he was working on that highway, and they had a little barge with 2 Johnson 35s, and they had a tug of war between a wrecker and that. Now the wrecker was it was a big wrecker. It was about 400 horsepower, and
To open the gate, to drain it, to lower the water.
yeah, no, but this didn't have anything to do with that. But to opening the gates, we had a crew of, I guess, 40 people, half of St. Martin Parish, the mayor of Henderson, and all those guys were there. And they had equipment, and they wrapped a cable around a tree. And that cable was being towed by a big old bulldozer, a D9 Cat, and you wouldn't move it. So then they hooked up a big excavator, and between the two of them, they could open the gate. They could close the gate.
But the project is the project's to upgrade the gates.
Upgrade, yeah.
That's good. Well, you can do it electronically.
Yeah, you push it,
hydraulically.
Yeah.
That's good.
But, you got an inside guide levee, and you got the main line levee. They're about 8 miles apart, and it comes from, I guess, Simsport all the way down to Butte La Rose, and and it comes down to that gate.
Yeah.
And it's only a 50-foot opening, and so you got how many tons of water that has to come through there. You have the need, is to drain Henderson, because that affects our water levels. When it gets to 20 feet at Butte La Rose, at the weirs, it has to go into Henderson. And of course, Colonel Jones wouldn't let that happen, so he was by the book man, But I think
When you refer to by the book, the Mississippi River Commission put these rules together back when, many years ago.
it got finalized in November of '70.
Okay.
And NEPA came in the 1st of January of '70. And see, the problem is they inundated probably 200,000 acres of wetlands, and they keep it permanently flooded.
And there's no water, there's no reservoir to hold the water when it rains.
When it rains, yeah.
And it overflows. It's like a weir.
That's right. See, the water should go into the swamps, into the wetlands, and then down into the bayou. But if you got the swamps full, it goes right into the bayou.
Yep.
And then coming into, and it's all gonna get in your homes. So draining it, bringing it down 4 feet, really, and it had a big north wind blowing, so Cypress Island, you keep the bayou, the pumps keep the bayou at 5, and it went down to -1. And Lake Charlotte was dry for the first time in 38 years, so. And anyway, to finish the story about building I-4, building I-10, they had two outboards and it's a tug of war between a wrecker and a big highway wrecker, big truck wrecker. And it was, I don't know if you ever been to a chicken fight, but the money has been gone. St. Landry Parish had some of the last chicken fights.
You're right. But chickens wasn't an animal, they're fowl.
Yeah.
That's why they had it in St. Landry Parish.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So the boat won.
They both won. But looking ahead, I understand you attended a meeting of the commission, Corps of Engineers.
Yeah,
this
the
weekend.
low water inspection. That was Friday in Morgan City. I had 3 topics that I covered. One was the test for me and how it has changed. The fact that they built the Red River impoundments and raised the water in Alexandria 20 feet. That forced they can't put water down into the Red River anymore. It's got to come to us. And then they closed I think the Baie de Glaze gate. And it's kind of interesting, that gate is critical, but they've had it closed since '73. And that put a lot more water down towards us.
Right, it goes into west of Chapfly.
Right, yeah.
Bayou de Glaze.
Yeah.
Diversion canal.
Diversion canal, yeah.
Which also goes into Catawba.
Yeah, that's right.
So I guess you could say, you want to know about St. Landry Parish, we're where the problem begins and it ends.
See, by Catawba is only 19 miles long.
Yeah.
And, and there's a proposal to put a gate in the inside guide levee, which would be, I think, real important because, one, you'd have an opportunity to put good water into Henderson.
Yeah.
And then, you'd give floodwaters somewhere to go. They go right into the river,
Now, some of the other projects that we worked on, for instance, the taking out of the pipeline pipeline levees that they put in.
Yeah.
You want to touch on that?
That was so well done. I think what they called the Dixie pipeline,
Dixie Pipeline, that's correct.
and I think it's right on the boundary of
St.
St.
Landry.
Martin and St. Landry.
Right.
So they put about 30 openings, and the openings were where the natural waterways came through. And so that worked very, very well. Of course, they still have a problem with the High Line, the Clico line that goes through there, and I think Clico is very involved in a fix. So, but when we went and inspected it, I think Jody was running the boat, and he got out, and it didn't cover didn't go over his knee boots, So
Well, Harold, the removing that Dixie Pipeline levee, it allowed fresh water to get to parts of the lake that didn't get fresh
That's
water
right.
because there were only two openings.
Yes, that's
And
right.
what were the two openings?
One was way to the west, and the other was maybe a half a
Lost
mile.
Bayou or something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one was about a mile east of, so I think it's 8 miles across to get the water into, and then there were small waterways, you know, to get it to Henderson. It had to go about 6, 7 miles to the east, and then our gate at Henderson is on the west guide levee, so all that water has to come through. And then you got all kinds of disruptions, you know.
And when we got,
The Phillips is one of them. The old railroad track, you know, that's another. The highway, US 10.
yeah,
All of those things are obstructions in the way. So that's why it filled very quickly. And then they want to keep it at 6.7. The engines are involved in that decision. And so
now
the river,
I don't remember what rain it was, but they had to open the gates, and that all 5 gates were open at 15 feet. And I think Jody had gone up there to see how much water was being held back, and I think his number was about 2 feet. Is that what you remember?
yeah.
2 feet of water on the north side of the berms,
Yeah.
and now you don't have that rise anymore. It's pretty much leveled out.
Yeah, I think at the Grimmett Canal, I think the water's right now at 7, and the river is at 5.5, 5.1.
Yeah.
According to, yeah. So, I think it's really important that St. Landry is very involved in that issue, and with your help, and
Well,
Wayne and a few others.
it's a team effort, and I've got to know most of the folks that you work with, and we talk regularly about various projects that CPRA and is doing, and it's only being done because of the involvement of the organization that y'all put together, and I'm thankful for it, and I know the folks in our parish are too.
The Dave Dixon was there at the
Yes,
hearings.
he
And
went to the hearing with you?
Yeah. And he
Okay.
made a plea for some kind of baloney that never happened. You know.
Do what now?
He made a plea for, I think, who's our representative? Higgins.
Yeah,
Higgins got $50 million to dredge the Vermilion from, I think, Lafayette to, from St. Martin, the road to Lake Martin to, I think it goes all the way down to Abbeville or further down, you know. But it's to bring it to -11. And, but for one reason or another, it hasn't happened yet. He got the money in, I think, in 22, and they haven't found a way to spend it yet, so.
but I'm not surprised. You have to understand, no one promised government would be efficient.
Government is like a wagon with square wheels. You want it to roll, you better push, push, push.
You're right. And I have to give it to your organization. Y'all stay on top of it and keep reminding folks, and it's going to get done. I believe that in my experience in doing this business. It never happens tomorrow. It's always tomorrow's tomorrow.
Well, it's very important that, the politicians, if you're fighting with each other, they can stand away and you settle your differences. But you get 4 or 5 parishes pulling together, then it's gonna happen, you know. We attended a meeting in Appleville, and they're all excited about putting a dam on the Vermilion, you know,
On the way.
on the Vermilion.
Oh,
And first of all, it's gonna give navigation a problem. 'Cause, I mean, they're talking about building a dam that won't handle navigation.
mercy. That doesn't sound
Of
logical.
course, the storm surges, a lot of water moving very quickly, and it would just go around the dam.
Wow.
They wanna build they got $15 million, and they're excited about spending it. If somebody asked me about 250 acres that were for sale, it was on Vermilion Bay. And I said, well, that's gonna be a mile out, you know. And so anyway, you say that, you know that for sure? I said, no, I don't, but I can tell you, I'm gonna go to my son's map office and we'll tell me the township and range and sections, and I'll tell you whether it's still there, you know. So we took a current map of the bay and put the township and range and sections, and that whole shoreline is just the way it was when it was surveyed in 1847.
Wow.
So Vermilion Parish wants to put a rock weir from Bowstone to Mud Point. And I can tell them that the shoreline there is just the way it was 100 years ago. Now, if you get behind Mud Point, Little Bay, all that area, the shoreline has changed a lot, you know. But there's nothing like getting the facts, you know. You want to be effective in politics, get your information straight.
Do the
your
math.
homework, yeah.
Do the math first.
Math, yeah. That's been part of my success, you know. Be sure that you have your math straight. It was a 9-year battle to wipe out shell dredging, and you know, they had a contract to dredge Southwest Pass. That would have kept them busy for 20 years, you know. And with a water quality complaint, we set up an adjudicatory hearing, and which essentially said you can't do it because what we asked the judge to determine is, do they need a permit and should they get it? And he said the wash water portion of it does need a permit, and it's so damaging they shouldn't get it. And they appealed that all the way to the Louisiana Supreme Court. And that ruling held. So the power of a pen, you know, a lot of that was put together. And this simple terms, you know, there's the water required to have a permit, and that was 20% of what they were dumping.
Wow.
So one of the things last time I had communication with the RAB levee board was to put solar panels on the levees. And it'd be very beneficial to the state and to the parishes, because they pay, where it crosses public land, they'd pay $800 an acre. And so there's a bunch of property that Sarah owns that it'd be ideal for these solar panels because it's close to the grid. And of course, we got miles and miles of levees, you know, so.
Yeah.
But the Shafly Levy Board, I have not made an appeal to them. I did make an appeal to the St. Mary Levy Board. Tim Mott, and he's got some of the biggest deficiencies. But he's a CPA who was the mayor of Morgan City, and now he's the head of the St. Mary Levy Board, you know. And that was part of the Shafly Levy Board. I think there are 13 parishes involved, and several parishes have broken off. I think Terrebonne is one of them.
How was the reception on that suggestion?
Oh, you know, they just, you know, General Peebles and the board are very complimentary to everybody that talks, you know. But I don't know if any action will come from it.
Well, everything starts with an idea.
That's right, that's right. I would encourage young people to, as you were very involved at 13, I was very involved in issues. You know, I was the secretary of the Rod and Gun Club here. Was involved in building the levee around Lake Martin. Senator, I think Rex McCullough had gotten $200,000 to build it. And they couldn't afford to pay for the easements, so we had the Louisiana land that came and surveyed the high water mark. And we put the borrow pit right on the edge of the high water mark around the lake. And the high water mark defines the ownership around a lake.
Interesting.
Now, if it's a bayou goes through your property, it's a low water mark. But if it's a lake, it's a high water mark. It's kind of interesting
It is.
that the 1880 legislature, they passed Act 75, and paragraph 11 of that act set up the Louisiana Land Office. And it was their job to get rid of the marshlands and swamplands and all the woodlands, and the woodlands and marshlands, the woodlands and the prairie lands were 25 cents an acre. And the enormous companies were built on that investment. And the marshland and swampland was 12.5 cents an acre. So that was a giveaway.
It was.
White Lake was involved in that.
Well, you've been doing this for some time now, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I was a scoutmaster for 42 years, so raised 6 kids and have fought a lot of battles. Won them all.
Not surprised.
But I know St. Landry Parish has a lot to offer. I think most of that I was talking to. We had meetings down there, and I think it was John, can't remember his last name, the word John Earls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Earls, yeah.
John Earls
He's from Avoyles.
of Oils, yeah. He's farming 12,000 acres, 10,000 acres of cane, 1,000 acres of rice, beans, and but you can imagine that's when the Earls have a father that's still farming, and I'm sure they're multimillionaires, but that background from farming probably helped them do a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we probably met with every parish council and police jury in the areas of the watershed to once or more times to go over various projects that we were talking about, that we were just considering, and had unanimous support on it.
Yeah, it was really amazing how the people at Avoyles Parish, I remember Colonel Jones. Colonel Jones was, he went to the Marksville High School, and he graduated at 17 and went into the Army, served 2 combat tours in the Army, ended up with a battlefield commission, and then he went to helicopter school at Fort Benning, and then he retired as a bird, 06, as a bird colonel, you know. And the Air Force had 16,000 lieutenant colonels and 2,100 bird colonels. So that's a big, big jump to go
Yeah.
make that jump. So anyway, Colonel Jones, when he retired, he came back to teach at his Marksville High. And he taught there, and every year they made him principal. And then they wanted him to be parish council president, you know. He said, "Oh, no, I'm not running for office." They said, "You don't understand, there's nobody running against you." So, but he ran, you could see why he reached where he did, because he was very, very to the point, ran a very good meeting. He said, "If you visit us, we don't have any time limits on your comments. If we have to stay here with you till midnight, we'll stay with you."
Okay.
Yeah. I think he's passed away, so. So anything y'all are pushing for in St. Landry Parish that we should know about?
What we pushing for?
Yeah.
Well, in every parish, there's certain mandated expenses we're obligated to meet, and
Yeah, you gotta run the courthouse, you have to run the
and
jail, you have to.
absolutely, and of course, there are certain mandates that are priority over anything else we do, and when you have a limited budget, it's tough to, with escalating cost of each one of these departments, it's tough to balance the budget, but it has to be done, and we're working diligently to do it. We have, economically speaking, we're moving forward. We have several major projects that have been suggested and in negotiations, and I'm not at liberty to talk about it today, but things look promising.
Yeah, because they may not happen.
Exactly.
May they slip between the cup and the lip.
You're right. You're right.
So, and a lot of times, who's the enemy, and often I was involved in dealing with the orphan wells, and Ben Bienvenu, who's now the Conservation Commissioner, was the manager of the Côte Blanche field, and they had made a deal to plug and abandon 300 wells. And it was like, about 200,000 a well, so that's quite a financial commitment.
Absolutely.
Wildlife and Fisheries hit them with $1 million per well. oyster damage. And so they turned them all into orphan wells. And
Wow.
so that's why they sit out in the water, no lights, nothing on them, you know, rusting. Because Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries hit them with, you know, a penalty of $1 million per well. And there's not a live oyster anywhere in that neighborhood, you know.
Jeez. That's one working against another.
That's right, that's right, that's exactly right, you know. The oil company's trying to do the right thing, and here comes Wildlife and Fisheries, you know, that are trying to put a stick in the wheels, in the spokes, you know.
So what's your next big project?
Lord, I don't know. I think we have to revisit that test for million. I think the gates that they operate, they start with the Keystone, and they hold the test at 9. Probably the weir is at 9.5, but they have to keep the water 3 inches over it, so it's pretty close to 10. That, and then they have to, when they do that, that forces around a mile-an-hour current down to Vermilion. And that's from the Ruth Canal, which was put in, you know, to provide water for the rice farmers. And of course, no rice farmers anymore. They've all been converted to cane.
That's about right.
I had one farmer tell me he was farming 1,000 acres, and he made more the first year on cane than in 30 years of raising rice and cattle and beans,
Yeah.
crawfish. You know.
Yeah, with
So the numbers are astounding. And then Coca-Cola wants to put real cane sugar in instead of what they call it, corn syrup.
corn syrup, yeah.
Corn, yeah. So that's bumped up the need. And then Brazil and I don't know what another one of those South American countries is they making their cars run on ethanol from sugar cane. And you know, corn-based ethanol, you get it takes 1.8 bushels of corn to make 1 gallon of ethanol, and the average, so you're getting around 180 bushels per acre. Boils in North St. Landry, they're doing a lot better on corn, but even at 300 bushels per acre, the cost of ethanol is way up there. And but from sugarcane cider, they can make 1,200 gallons per acre. And you know,
It's the crop.
just the crop, yeah.
It's the crop. And
Yeah.
of course, you know, I don't know how what's gonna happen in the future, but with, you know, with these tariffs on, that have been put out, grain farmers are feeling it terribly right now. And
Yeah.
Sugar cane seems to be a staple that we need to, we'll see more expansion in.
Yeah, yeah. Hugh Andre has become a good friend, and he's very involved in their planting right now, so, but they got a fabulous crop coming up.
Hmm.
It's the best crop they've seen in years, you know. So right now, I think Florida is around 3,000 pounds per acre, and they got more acreage, but we're around 10,000 pounds per acre. we have the water and the rainfall we need to produce a good, clean crop. You know? And there's only 2 states left in the country that still grow sugarcane. Hawaii closed their mills, and did an interesting thing. They burned their cane standing. Of course, we don't have to burn it at all. But to the credit of the pellet manufacturers, you know, they found a way to turn bagasse into pellets, cellulose pellets, and that's being mostly shipped to Europe for the real efficient stoves and the renewable energy. Anytime you can take a waste, and they're building a plant at Patuville and at
So they're processing the bagasse at these at the mills?
Yeah.
They're pelletizing them, in other words.
They turn them into pellets.
Yeah.
And they pulverize the pellets into a fine dust.
Right.
And mix it with air.
Yeah.
And run that through a combined cycle turbine. It's very explosive.
Wow.
Yeah. You see things like that. Wonder, well, why are we shipping it all to Europe? We have the same opportunity.
And it was a waste product prior to that.
Yeah. But they think all of that will be gone in 4 years.
Wow.
And every mill, there's 11 mills in the state, and all of it will be gone in 4 years. They're setting up 2 of these processing, one's in Lake Charles and one at Patuville. So anytime you can take a waste and turn it into value, that's a home run.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's something that you're going to bring the waste, and is it better to cut trees or take the waste from the bagasse? Once they crush the cane, they take the residue and they grind it up into sawdust. And the thing that Odom set up over there by Jennings, the Lacazine.
Is that where it's being done?
Well, no. It's in Lake Charles. I don't know exactly where.
Okay. And they doing the pelletizing there too?
No, that was they only took the juice out of the cane, and they were self-powered. They produced their electricity from the bagasse.
Yeah.
And
wow.
You get 8,000 BTUs with dry bagasse. If it's wet, it's 4,100. So they had a big shed that they kept all that dry. And you know, that hacked off the governor, Foster, because all of that cane was coming to his, he owned half of the Patu mill and 40% of the St. Mary mill.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And he had set up a rail delivery system for it. All at state expense.
Now, these sugar mills, they haul the bagasse to Lake Charles or put it on a train or whatever they do.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and then they process it there.
Yeah.
And now there's a second factory.
Well, yeah.
Pankerville, did you say?
At Patuville.
Okay.
You see it right when you cross the, I think when you see it's right between the mill and the highway.
Yeah. Yeah, Pankerville's down there by south of Donaldsonville.
Yeah. But it's,
That was my route to Nichols.
yeah. But anyway, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here, Harold.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
You're a
It was
model for,
It's always a pleasure
Yeah.
to visit with you, and I'll be happy to do it anytime you need.
thank you, sir, for being here.
Okay.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Everyone have a great week.
Right. I had a birthday coming up Saturday, I think Sunday.
Do it now.
I'll have a birthday coming up Sunday.
Well, happy birthday. I'll call you Sunday and wish you a happy birthday and sing it to you. How about that?
Right, yeah.
Yep.
And how old are you?
I'm 76 in a few months. And how old will you be?
86.
86. You're the same age as my brother Earl.
Oh, yeah.